I think you've said that the word theme has been misused extensively when it comes to film and television. But I believe you've also said that beware of the simple one-liner.
Yeah. It's a theme is something that is misunderstood by a percentage of people. One of the things that my playwriting teacher pointed out to me back when I was learning this stuff, and he explained it, and then he said, "This is really important. Make sure you absorb this." And he said, the way in which the protagonist resolves the dilemma expresses the theme of the story. And it's very, very clear because the resolution is where the whole story comes together, and the completion of the story completes the magic spell on the audience, which crystallizes the mood that they go home in. Like in a romantic comedy, it's been fun and fresh, but also the romance falling apart and things getting troubled and then finally coming together in the end. And usually you feel happy and in love at the end if it's done right. And all of that was skillfully orchestrated by the writer and the filmmakers. And the theme also comes through that which is being said organically by the story comes together in the ending. And so if you look at the protagonist's active resolution of the dilemma and look at the way in which the protagonist resolves the dilemma, that enables you to put your finger on the theme. So for instance, if you, let's say in a what if with our story about Derek, that say that he creates a third way out of the dilemma in which he's neither trapped by the demands of his company nor by the demands of the blackmailer or whatever it ends up being, and neither one is a good way out. And by thinking on his feet and maybe working with Skylar, he comes up with a creative way to skate through this horrible trap that he was in. And so if you look at, not you look at what he does, but you look at the way in which he does it, it's about like thinking creatively and realizing what he really needs in life, where he was always denying his own needs and lying to himself, and like that he's finally brutally honest with himself and is genuinely in love with her, even though she has betrayed him, but she's also been a victim, and she's changed and he's grown, and he's able to synthesize a new life for himself in the process of figuring out how to get out of the trap. That all of that is what the story is about thematically. It's about creating a new life for yourself and finding a way out of hell and powering out of a skid. And you can see that creative type of resolution of taking command of his life and powering out of a bad situation is what the story is about thematically. And what's interesting about being able to articulate the theme that's emerging organically from a story is that you often only start with a sense of it. Like in looking at that type of possible resolution for Derek, I can see it and sort of talk around it and describe it in a bunch of different ways like I just did, like I just said it about 10 different ways. But my ability to articulate it crisply and cleanly is not there yet, because you have to live with it for a while and look at what the audience leaves with. They leave with a sense of that theme in their gut, in their soul. And if you stop them on the way out and ask them to articulate the theme, they probably couldn't. They just have it at a gut level. It's in them. So it has a lot to do. You want to be able to dwell with a partially formed understanding of something as a crucial step in synthesizing your understanding. People are very uncomfortable with partial solutions. They always want to go, no, I need to have the whole thing in a nutshell. So they don't like partial understanding. It kind of freaks people out. But as a creative writer, you need to get comfortable with that, because so often you're feeling your way through things where you're beginning to understand it at a gut level, but you have no capacity whatsoever at first for articulating it. And maybe you finally just got a handle on your theme, and your writing partner comes in the room and you go like, I got it. And your writing partner is like, so what is it? Spit it out. And you're like, I can't yet. I got it. Leave me alone. Get out of my face. Let me just sit here with it because I got it. And people are feeling creatures. Long before speech, people just felt. Animals do that. We're feeling creatures. And so the ability to look at the protagonist's resolution and look at the way in which he or she resolves the dilemma will put you right on the theme that's actively emerging from organically in your story. And it may be diametrically opposed to what you thought the theme of your story was going to be. Starting with a sense of theme can often be troublesome because you can end up being preachy and trying to dictate that to the viewers or the readers, as opposed to that which organically emerges as the story takes on a life of its own, the characters take on a life of their own. And you have to be able to, if you're still stuck saying that the theme is what you set out to have it be, you may be the one that's missing the boat. If the viewers see that movie, they'll get it organically and carry it away in their gut. And think about it for a while if it's deep and compelling. And it may affect how they interact with people for the rest of their lives. Like they never yell at their kids again for the rest of their life or something like that, because something was awakened in them, even if they can't explain it. Maybe later they'll be able to, but the important thing is that you changed them through the complete action of a compelling story. So being able to have a good, strong sense of theme that's really emerging from your story is critical, because you as the writer need to be able to be in touch with the theme that is coming through the story. If you're still stuck on what you thought it was going to be, then you're missing the boat. You're missing the chance to work with the real theme, reinforce it, utilize it. And so your story will tend to be weaker, or you're out of touch with what your story is actually doing. You know, it's like you raise your kid and my kid's going to be a doctor, and you still see that because you're intent on seeing that. But if you look at the reality of what your kid is doing, you'd be like, he's a jazz musician. Holy crap, I thought he was a medical school, but no, he is genuinely a jazz musician. So it's about what you want to see versus what's really there. And theme is huge because you want to be able to connect to the theme that's emerging from your story reasonably early in the process. You could see that with the Derek story, I went right to dilemma. And once I'm working with dilemma a bit, I'm looking ahead to crisis, because that gives shape and focus to the theme. The theme is going to converge at the point of crisis and force a decision and action when there's like maybe 10 or 15 minutes left in the movie. And then the protagonist actively resolves the dilemma once and for all. That's the ending of the story. And then the way in which the protagonist resolves the dilemma enables you to put your finger on the theme that's actively emerging through that story. And you'll start early in the development process of your story, but you've already got a tentative statement or a tentative handle on your theme. You want to, that's why I said beware of the clever one-liner, because if experts in creativity say there's often 10 right answers to a question, and if you seize on one of those and say that's the answer, then you miss out on all the other layers of complexity. So again, it comes back to people's discomfort with a partially formed understanding. It freaks them out to dwell in that area where they sort of understand it, but not really. But that's the bread and butter of a writer, where you're gradually morphing through evolving ideas. And once you can feel the theme and live with it and look at all the aspects of your story through the lens of your gradually evolving understanding of the theme, it will inform the whole story. Because the theme really is what the story is about. It's what they call the governing idea, or the underlying philosophy of the story, or that which is being said by the story. And it may be, again, it may be the opposite of what you set out to say, or what you even want it to say. But that's what's really coming across to the audience. And that's, Price said that the theme, well, let me read you this quote from him. Yeah. So this is Price writing in 1908 about playwriting. So it's talking about plays, but it's exactly the same stuff. The highest form of play involves the philosophy of life, so that if the theme is not worth considering, there is usually little substance in a play. With a theme, your play will be about something. Theme does not stand alone. No principle does. Mere theme will never make a play. But it is a definite something. It furnishes a spiritual atmosphere and the philosophy of the play. It gives the clue to the actual shaping of the play. The tone depends upon it. It is the largest unit of the play. That's a very interesting statement, that the theme is the largest unit of the play. That's really interesting. For instance, the biggest organ in your body is your skin. So it's that kind of thing. The theme is not infects the whole story. That's not the right word, but it's spread throughout the whole story. It determines the shape and the tone of the story and all that stuff. So it's the ability to come to grips with it is important. And gradually, as you spend time living with it, your ability to articulate it will be enhanced until it kind of crystallizes. And then you're like, oh, yeah, now I can explain it quite clearly, like Sidney Pollack could say, the way that Becoming a Woman made a man out of Michael Dorsey. Like, there's a really crisp, clear statement of what that story is about thematically. And it helped him so much. And it gave a shape and a tone and helped him communicate with the actors and all that stuff. So it's a very powerful aspect of the story. And the basics of it is you don't want to rush it. Let yourself dwell with a partially formed understanding of it, and it will gradually gel and then crystallize. But not if you rush it.